1, the wheel's spinning, and here we are. We're going live. Hey, Kat, how you doing?
Hey, Dan.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Oh, gosh. Well, it's been a busy week.
It has. Okay, I'm going to go live on TikTok. Okay, I think I'm straight up now. Okay. Hi, guys. Here with Dan Mellis. He's you'll be able to hear his voice. You won't be able to see his face. And I'm Kat Howard with Windermere Real Estate, and I put out statistics called Stats by Kat. And Dan and I are going to have some genuine realtor lender conversations. So if you have a question, go ahead and enter it, and I will do my best to answer it, or we'll shift you over to Dan and he can answer the question. So
as long as you keep the lender questions nice and easy.
Yeah, so we got to keep them easy for Dan. So don't just be careful with him. You know, he's breakable.
At least bendable. Anyway.
Oh, well, he's flexible. Great.
Flexible. There you go.
I don't know. Okay, we have one more introduction. It's Mr. Fat Tuesday.
Mr. Fat Tuesday.
And he is trying to get up on my lap. So here we go. This is Mr. Fat Tuesday. He is a 16-month-old Havanese, and he thinks he's hot stuff. Yes, he does. Oh, you good boy. I know, and you probably hear him chiming in here and there. So anyway,
you'll especially hear him chiming in if he thinks he's going to the groomers.
He doesn't like the groomers. He doesn't like the groomers. That poor little guy. He learned how to I got him a new console seat, one that's got kind of high sides and high back. So it's safe for it to ride on the console, and then it's strapped to the console cover, And he's never really chosen to try to get in there on his own. I always lift him into it. But it was very interesting when I took him to the groomer the other day. Oh, he found his way right back into that console seat. It was so cute. I was like, oh, you do know how to get in there, you little bugger. Anyway, that's my sneaky little Mr. Fat Tuesday.
He said, I'm being a good boy. Do I really have to go to the groomers? Do I really have to go? Yep, you do.
I know. He's like, no, mom, I'm not dirty. Really, I'm not. No, and you comb me, Mom. I'm good. I don't need to go to the groomer. Mom, let's just go back home. Let's just take it back home. We don't need to stay here. You should see him talking like a dunchuckle, trying to stay out of the groomers. Anyway.
Oh gosh, with all that, and you've had a busy week on the real estate side of things.
Yes. Well, I pulled stats for the week. This week we're doing Snohomish. What are we doing? Snohomish or King County? I think we're doing Snohomish County.
We're doing Snohomish this week. Yeah.
So month supply of inventory stayed the same at 0.9 months. But I will tell you there are some signals of weakening in this incredible seller's market that we've been experiencing since January. Average days on the market for pendings has switched directions and is now increasing. So we're up to 19 days, and that had been steadily headed down since January. So that's an indicator that things are maybe switching directions. The sellers still think that they're going to get multiple offers. 47% of them set offer review dates. That's interesting because they still think that it's going to happen. Some of them will. 53% went pending in less than or equal to 7 days on the market. So
what was that percentage again?
53%.
7 days.
In 7 days, which that's significantly less than what it's been. So that's also trending down. And the other stat I really like is, how many sellers got under contract within 14 days. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of a shocker. It's only 55%. So, folks, if you got a home on the market, you better get sold in the first 7 days, because it gets tough after that. So
well,
this is realtor.
how many percentage get offers within 7 days? Is it like
Within
53%?
53 for 7 days. And you have to remember the statistic is it only goes back 7 to 14 days for the 7-day statistic, right?
Okay.
So that's actually for June 11th through the 17th. The
Okay.
other statistic, you have to go back 2 weeks and then go back 2 weeks from there to get a 14-day stat. And that's from May 28th to June 10th. And so to be fair, that almost includes the Memorial Day weekend in there. But my feeling is going forward, because I just pulled King County stats a week ago, and these numbers were trending down as well. So I don't think that Memorial Day has a lot to do with it, but maybe a little bit.
Okay.
So bottom line is we are, I think we're seeing a switch in the market. It's been a couple of weeks of pretty solid data with indicators kind of headed in the other direction. Whereas since January, it's just been up. Everything has been more and more positive for sellers and negative for buyers, right? So prices have come up 21% in King County. I can't wait to get my hands on the King County June data for next week. And Snohomish County, because the month will close out on June 30th, and I'll have access to that data on July 1st. So you know me, I'm going to pull that first thing on the 1st.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I'll let you know if for some reason, if things are looking like they're shifting a different way than what I'm suggesting. But I think June data will still show fairly strong for closed sales just because we just switched to directions in June. So, and these would be for homes that are still pending on the market. So they haven't closed yet. So that data will be reflected in July. So
well, I'm only laughing because I shouldn't say this, but anyway, I watch a lot of sports stuff on YouTube, right? And sometimes there'll be a big trade that comes up, and they'll have an emergency podcast for whatever sports trade. So I'm thinking to myself, maybe we should have an emergency podcast for the stats that come out on July 1st.
Okay. We should do a pop-up. Stats, report.
That's right.
How do we do in June? Let's see.
How do we do in June? That's right. Get that stuff out hot off the press.
Hot off the presses. That's right. So anyway, what do you got for me today, Dan?
What do I have for you? Well, we have interest rates, which are basically going flatline.
Okay, that's good.
But there was something that was interesting at the very end of the day today. And it's just a little something, right? But it kind of fits. So the thesis that I've been, pushing out there, it's not a big deal, but is that you're going to start to see interest rates coming down once we get through the end of the quarter because of bank reporting, right? That you disappeared. There you are.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thirsty.
So they have some bank reporting guidelines that come up at the end of the month, quarterly reports, and it looks like we're past that hump, if you will, because at the end of the day today, if you looked at the 10-minute data, the half-hour data, at the end of the day today, on the 10-year Treasury note, we started to see a pretty good sized drop in rates. I mean, it was pretty quick. And I'm going to be very interested to see how this follows up tomorrow and Friday if we start to see interest rates coming down significantly. And that's the one thing that could, that could change a little bit some of the dynamics for the softening, the little bit of softening that we're seeing in the real estate market.
Well, it could definitely light a fire under some buyers if we see a little bit of lightning on the interest rates, for sure.
Yeah. And even if we get an improvement in rates, it's probably going to take a couple weeks to start sinking in. Because even, a half a point increase, let's say 2 weeks, or half a point reduction in rates, let's say, or 3/8 of a point reduction in rates, let's say 2 weeks from now, because these things take time, generally speaking. And, but if you do get a 3/8 to a half a point reduction in rates by the middle of July, which I don't think is going to be unreasonable, things could very well heat up. So
Right.
I'm kind of keeping an eye on that, just in case.
Could
But
happen, Dan.
what's that?
It could happen.
It could happen. Yes, you never know. But
So hey, I wanted to talk a little bit about inspections today.
yes,
There's a, I mean, for one thing, should you have a home inspection on a home that you're purchasing? 100% yes. Yes. Under all circumstances. I don't care if it's new construction. I don't care if it's a condo, a townhome. I don't care. Has to have an inspection. Even if you're going to flip it, it's a really good idea to have a thorough home inspection. So what's
can I ask
really
you?
nice,
And I'm not meaning to interrupt, but can I ask you a quick question on some of
sure.
these multiple offer deals when they get really kind of intense and they're bidding way over asking price and stuff like that? There's a lot of times when they waive inspections, right? I mean, it
Yeah,
happens from time to time, right?
yes. And
Sorry to interrupt, but go ahead. I'm
no,
sorry.
as a realtor with a conscience, I can never recommend that a person move forward purchasing a home without having a home inspection in hand. So what's nice, and you just led me to my next topic. What's nice is when a seller actually provides a seller procured inspection for the buyers that are looking at the property. And so that way the buyers can feel a little more comfortable making an offer without an inspection contingency, because that is actually what the seller wants. The seller would like to see offers without inspection contingencies, because inspection contingencies in Washington state are get out of jail free cards. To be fair, you can literally change your mind. You don't have to have the inspection. You can do the inspection yourself, or you can have a licensed inspector conduct the inspection. So the other thing you can do, if the seller is not providing a seller procured inspection, you can actually have a pre-inspection in most cases. So a pre-inspection is where your realtor has maybe a couple of inspectors, lined up that they can get into the home in fairly short order. And you'd want to have an inspection done prior to putting an offer in on that home if they have set an offer review date. If they haven't set an offer review date, you can just include an inspection contingency. But the nice thing about if you have a pre-inspection, you can also just pay for like a walkthrough inspection as opposed to the full report. So walkthrough inspections sometimes run, I think, $275 to $325, $350 in that range typically. And so that way you're not paying the full $550 or $600 that it might cost to get the inspection done as well as a report. So the inspector will walk through and let you know as he's going through the home what the issues are. So that's another way to handle the inspection. But some of the things that you're looking for when you're having an inspection, and some of the things the inspector is looking for are places you can't see, right? So like they're looking in the attic and they're looking for potentially organic growth on the sheathing underneath the roof. They're looking for potential roof leaks. They're looking for potential rodent intrusion or infestation. And then also they go in the crawl space, which you and we don't want to go in the crawl space. So, and they're looking for, again, plumbing leaks in the crawl space, making sure that the floor is insulated, that there's a nice vapor barrier down there to keep moisture out, etc. So, those are things that an inspector can find that you would not necessarily see just walking through the home. So, and they can also figure out if you've got maybe knob and tube wiring, for instance. If and they're also going to look for things like that you wouldn't think would be in existence, but the sometimes the builders don't get the vents from the bathrooms or the laundry vented through the roof. Sometimes they actually only wind up venting into the attic, and then you can have some moisture problems in your attic. So I've run into that on new construction, by the way, as well. It's always been beneficial to have an inspection on new construction because listen, things get missed,
And along that line with inspections and all, It seems like up here in the Great Northwest, mold is sort of an issue from time to time. Mold in the basement and things like that. Do you ever run across that, or not very often?
Quite frequently, yeah. Especially in attics that aren't adequately ventilated.
Mm-hmm.
But you run into it too in crawl spaces where maybe they've had a plumbing leak.
Right.
So that can get pretty ugly. And rodent infestations are pretty common. You don't know whether to call it an infestation if it's kind of in the past, because rodents don't stay in the space. They're there for while they breed, right? Just for the one litter, and then they leave. So, when I hear the word infestation, I think lots of rodents at the same time. So, but there can be evidence of past rodents there as well, and that may need some cleanup. So before the buyer feels comfortable moving in. So, but I will tell you, almost every single home in Washington State has some evidence of rodent activity. We are very treed around here, and there are lots of them. So it's hard to find a super clean crawl space or attic. Just saying. So.
Whenever I hear about rodent infestation, it brings back bad memories of that old movie Willard. I never liked that movie Willard. It just sorry. Okay, never mind. Let's move on.
We digress.
Yes. So, oh goodness. And the leader.
You want to hear a story?
Yes, I would like to hear a story. Yes.
Okay, so there's a house, and this was just this past week. There was a house listed in, let's say, the Edmonds Linwood area. It was listed for about $535 to $550, right? It's almost 2,800 square feet, no garage. You walk into the house, and it hasn't been updated since 1960, right? It's been built in stages since the early 1930s, I think. And so you walk through the house, and the floors go different directions. Sometimes there's a hump in the middle, and they just kind of go down to the side. Anyway, so there's a little bit of that going on. There's different colored carpet in every room, wallpaper, and you might imagine in the 1960s, appliances and cabinets and countertops. So essentially, a buyer would be looking at potentially gutting this. So this would make a perfect flip, is what this would be. It's on a really nice lot in a really nice neighborhood, not too far from I-5. And they ended up setting an offer review date on that one for about a week later. And they got 3 offers. The buyer that won escalated to $675, and they actually got it for $605. So they paid a little bit over asking, and there was only 3 offers. And at $605, I will tell you that works. That number works, because when they put a couple $100,000 into that, they will have, a $950,000 property more than likely. So that really worked. That really works well. So I did have a client that was interested in that before we were able to make an offer. He left for Fiji, and kind of unexpectedly, and turns out they have a little bit less connectivity in some areas in Fiji than we are fortunate enough to have in this country in most areas. So it turns out when he got there, he couldn't communicate with me. So no offer.
No offer.
So that's what happened with that one.
I will say this. We were talking last week about the whole condo thing and the streamlining, and we'll get into that in upcoming episodes. But I did talk to a lender that was kind of interesting, because about flips that you're talking about, they have a stated income, stated asset flip program. I was like, huh.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So if you really don't want to be honest about how much money you're making or how much you have in the bank.
Well, you took that one to town there, Dan. Because it's not necessarily when you're self-employed that you're not being honest.
I know.
Come on, man.
Sorry about that.
You're talking to a realtor. We're all self-employed.
Yes, that's right.
But the DSCR loans are good for us, because what if we haven't gotten our taxes done for the year,
You have a problem. That's right. That's not an honesty issue. That's true. That is true. Anyway, I thought it was an interesting deal. So it's, there's a loan for every, there's a loan for every situation. So, which is a good thing. So,
I like that.
but
Yeah.
I digress. Go ahead.
Okay, I have one more. I have another interesting story, not one more story. Oh my gosh, I'm clearly I have plenty of stories. I accumulate them on a daily basis. So, okay, so there's a Rambler that was listed a couple weeks ago in South Everett in a really, really nice community. It was like almost 1,900 square feet. It was essentially original. They had remodeled the primary bathroom fabulously with a nice walk-in shower with all the glass and everything. And it was in a neighborhood of Snohomish schools. They ended up getting, so that the seller in this case also set an offer review date. So they ended up getting 7 offers. The buyer number 1 that won the property ended up paying $785. So it was listed in the low 7s. So I'll tell you that. But that buyer escalated all the way up to, what was it? 853. He escalated to 853. So sorry, I'm reading my notes over here because I've got a couple.
No, that's so he was willing to go to 853.
He was willing to go to 853, which that is almost batshit crazy. Sorry, 785 was actually a really good value for that house. So what happened was there were 7 offers. Buyer number 2 came up to 780, and so buyer number 1 was escalated, and everybody else came in under that, right? So buyer number 2 escalated to 780. And so buyer number 1, their increment for their escalation was $5,000. So that put them at 785. So that's how they won that. I wanted to kind of go through that scenario for people that might be getting into a multiple offer situation as to how that works. So the beauty of having an escalation addendum attached to your purchase and sale, included in your purchase and sale as a contingency, excuse me, is the listing agent has to provide the full offer for buyer number 2 to show you that buyer number 1 was legitimately escalated, and you could go back and make sure the terms were apples and apples. So that escalation, as much as I hate, the whole idea of escalating, I do like that the listing agent has to show you that competing offer, and that way you're not paying $50,000 over just because or 150 over just because you really want the property, because it's somewhere that you really need to be or you want to be. So I really love that.
So let me ask a question. This is for the the layman, if you will, like me. So if you have buyer number 1 and buyer number 2, buyer number 1 is willing to go to, what would you say, 853?
853.
853. So they're holding their cards close to the chest to begin with, right? And
Yes.
then buyer number 2, I'm assuming, was also escalating, but they were only willing to escalate up to 780. Is that correct?
That's right.
And that's how
Well,
that
they only
works.
escalated, to be fair, these other 6 buyers only went either to full price or within $30,000-$40,000 of full price. So everybody was fairly certain it wasn't going to go much higher. So buyer number 1 must have really wanted that property for a very specific reason. For instance, because it's a Rambler, that's going to fit almost everybody's needs. So somebody who needs a Rambler for because they're aging or they have some kind of reason why they have a disability, so a lot of people, it'll just suit most families. It really will, and most living situations. So Ramblers are the most sought after floor plan out there. So sellers can get away with not doing as much to make them a shiny object because there's so much demand for Ramblers.
Right. Oh, that's very interesting. So like if you put, so it's a much easier process. If you're putting a Rambler out on the MLS and you just put out Rambler, you could do your own staging and it really is not going to make much difference.
Well,
No, not really.
I still think, windows, you got to do windows. You got to get the yard prepped.
I mean, you got to wash the windows.
Yeah, and the window tracks.
Okay.
Come on, Dan. Get with the program. So the window tracks make all the difference because they make old windows look brand new. I have a guy, Tim, that I love to use. He does my windows in my own personal residence. I mean, when I refer him to other agents, they actually can't believe the work this guy does, because he literally makes the windows look brand new, even though they're like old aluminum, right? Or old anodized aluminum, or even the older vinyl, white vinyl, but he makes them look like they're just brand new. And if the seals haven't failed on them, then they do look brand new. It's incredible. So yeah, there's a reason why. It's because we have the high definition photography and videography now that we utilize for our listings. And me in particular, I have a media team that goes out and they take professional photos. They do a Matterport 3D tour. I have them do cinematic short format video to get out there on social media. I haven't put together floor plan, but all these high definition photos and videos will show the dirt on the windows, and the house will sparkle if the windows are super clean. You think it would be subtle, but it's actually
it's not
really
just the window tracks that he makes look super clean, but it's also a nice, clear, clean window.
That's right. Yep. And we take the window coverings down too. And I recommend that in most cases. If you're going to be living there, then maybe you want to keep some window coverings on your bedroom. But it just looks cleaner, where everybody's going for the contemporary these days, the contemporary look. So
what is the contemporary look?
It is sans window coverings. So, no draperies. I think draperies are coming back in style. But for now, we're back to white paint, crazy enough. So white paint on the interior, and relatively little window coverings, if any at all. So including mini blinds, we just don't want to see anything. It starts to look a little bit more like new construction if it's got a fresh coat of paint and everything's nice and clean, and especially if it's staged. So staging can detract away, and we should talk about staging, because that's a big topic.
Let's talk staging. We got time.
Yeah, because it costs some money, right? So it's not that inexpensive to stage a house. It's probably standard $2,500 to $4,000 for the first month, and sometimes you can get that second month included. So it is worth talking about why you would stage. So you can take a house that was built in 1979. Put as long as the carpets or the flooring is not in terrible shape, you can throw an area rug, a ginormous area rug in the family room. Grab a cute contemporary sofa and a couple of chairs, put some modern pillows and throws and a couple of modern lamps, and you'd be shocked at sorry, somebody's trying to join the live. I'm talking.
You got somebody on TikTok joining the live? That's pretty cool.
Well, no, they were trying to jump on, because you can have people jump on and join you. But I already got you. So, sorry, guys. Trying my best there. So hopefully you don't give me the kiss off after that. Anyway. So you can transform a family room into a really cute, little sitting area. And you can do the same thing with the dining room, kitchen, and maybe just stage in the primary bedroom as well, and bathroom. So you don't have to do the entire home. It's really nice though to have like a desk in one of the bedrooms and maybe something else in the other bedroom, so that when buyers are going through the videos and the Matterport 3D tours, they're able to identify the different rooms in the home. So when they're looking at the floor plan, here's the primary, and these are the other bedrooms. So if they are all empty, it's hard to tell if they're all being shown, right? So if it's that way, you can do it with artwork. You could put a plant in one corner and a piece of art and maybe a little table, just enough so that you can identify those are different rooms. So that's my 2 cents on staging. And honestly, you guys, I've actually pulled comps for my clients. Like I had a split level listed about 2 years ago, and they were very hesitant to pay for staging. And I pulled, it was like a 1980 split level. So I took about a 5-mile radius from their house, and I pulled all the homes that were split levels built in that same era. And then I looked at the photos of every single one, and I put them in 2 categories. So one of them was the staged category, and the other one was they used their own furniture or there was no staging. And I included flips in there that were not staged. And the ones that had staging in there sold for considerably more. I can't remember the percentage off the top of my head, but it was considerably more. Let's see, it was like $20-something thousand was the difference. That would have been, I don't know, a $700,000 house. So would that be like 3 or 4 or 5% more? It was significantly more. So the net to the seller was significant.
So
and it was only going to cost them like $2,200 to stage it.
So if you're buying a house, the first words out of my mouth would be, Kat, show me all the non-staged houses. I'm a cheapskate. I want to buy. Well, and
the non-staged houses are not going to necessarily, they're probably not going to get the multiple offers. I mean, when I call a house a shiny object, I mean, I'm talking about one that's staged, and that probably the kitchen and the bathrooms have more than likely been updated or remodeled. And you've got a decent coat of paint on the outside and a relatively newer roof, one that's not going to need replacing in the next 5 years or whatever. So, but that's staging, it does. And honestly, it really works well also to stage the deck with, a couple of, cute chairs or, a small sofa set, and some bright pillows. It just makes the space feel more inviting, to be fair.
Right. No, I've seen the differences. I know what you're talking about. And it does make a big difference. I mean, it's easier to, it's a lot easier to justify a higher price if it looks nice. It sounds simple. But.
What's interesting is, like, I was showing out in Camino, and this house had a beautiful view. It had a lot of other problems. It was almost, to the point where you probably feel like you got to rip out the bathrooms and you're going to have to remodel the kitchen. But I'll tell you what, we had it inspected, and everyone felt so incredibly comfortable in that house. We all went out on the back deck with the inspector, and we sat there and just absorbed the sun and chatted like the buyers had moved in. They felt like they were, we all just felt like they already lived there. Because it was that kind of house and that kind of a property. So when that happens, it's because something's done right.
Yeah. So. That's a good point. I mean, if you're coming in and looking at a house and it feels like home,
and you would just want to sit down, I mean, that's what a seller's trying to get to happen. That's really what you're going for. You want a buyer to feel like they can just have a seat. So you're trying to create that kind of homey ambiance, but do it in a contemporary way.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I mean, because you do want to build a really nice, like you say, like a homey feel, because you're buying a new home. So
right. Sorry, guys, I can't have anybody else joining me because I've got Dan on. But in the future, I will be happy to. So I just turned off my invites for so people wanting to join live, which is kind of fun. That way they can just ask their questions, when they're live.
Wait, you know what we could do? Once we end this broadcast on the live stream, you can keep the TikTok broadcast going and get the.
I could.
Get the questions coming in.
We'll see how long I can make. It's been a long day, Dan. Thanks for volunteering me. No offense, guys.
Well, finish up the rest of the chocolate martini and go for number 2, and then we'll get the TikTok answers and questions going.
That's right. Okay, well, we're gonna sign off, guys. Thank you for joining. Send me any questions you might have. DM me. Bye.
Thanks, Kat.
Hold on. Okay, I'm back, Dan.
Okay,
I wanted to end my live stream.
Oh, okay.
I was just trying to get off the TikTok.
No, that's okay.
Because
You
I
know,
feel
that
a little more on camera on the TikTok because there's people popping in, you know.
I think that's pretty cool. The way they work.
Yeah,
that.
I don't know that the quality of the video is going to be as good because the quality will be good, but it's got all this stuff on the video. Like they show people popping in, so there's going to be all this stuff that shows up. So I'm not sure I'm going to love that. But I was excited to do it live so that, you know, just to get more people watching us.
Yep.
But I might end up having to maybe just do a separate, you know, a little separate thing where,
Right.
you know, I'm not by myself necessarily, but you and I could be chatting maybe for half of it. And then the other half we do like just separate recording.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a good deal though over on TikTok. That's pretty interesting that people are just jumping on and you get, you know, pretty cool.
I had like, I want to say I can sit closer now since I'm not filming myself. I had like 5 or 8 people try to actually get on with me.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Which could have been really fun, you know, and I think that situation is a heck of a lot easier when you're on by yourself. It's harder when, like Michelle, I know that when she does her lives with Kira, they don't normally let just anybody pop on there because they have no idea who they are or what they're going to say. When she's by herself, she'll let Joe or her inspector pop on or somebody else that she knows, but she's really hesitant to let people on that she doesn't know because you never know what they're going to say and they could get you banned.
Right.
I hate her the other day who, what do you say? I posted that video about just going and getting the duplex down there in Grays Harbor inspected. And I said what we're going to look for, the knob and tube wiring, the post and pier foundation. And then I ended it there. Right. And so I didn't get into the inspection at all. I just said, listen, my client bought a duplex down in Grays Harbor and blah, 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 blah. And it took about a minute. So I wanted to end it there so that I could get that posted to the different social media. And then I would address the inspection today, which I'm editing that right now. But he actually he actually hopped on and he sent me a comment on the post. And he said, "That's all?" ? And I saw it pop up. So I was like, okay, I'll address that, you know. I said, well, yeah, I've got another one coming out tomorrow that will talk more about the inspection items. He gets back on and he says, "You had time. I'm blocking you."
Okay.
Like I had time according to who? You know, according to TikTok, because like the TikTok will let you record a video for up to 10 minutes. I had time for that. Well, yeah, I didn't want a 10-minute video, you know? So anyway, so he got all bent out of shape. I don't know. I mean, you get in trouble for anything you do, you just get in trouble, you know?
People are easily triggered these days. It is amazing.
Well, and I would worry about getting banned. I really would worry about that. Because I've known several big TikTokers that have gotten banned. And so Michelle and I both are very cognizant about, you know, we could potentially get banned. We don't want to. So I got to figure out what those rules are, you know.
That's the tricky part about social media. Just when you figure out the rules, they change them, it seems like.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know much about all this stuff. You know, it seems to be, you know, it's a funny thing. After everything that came out about Twitter, it just seems like a lot of this is at the discretion of people at the social media companies.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't, you know, it's almost impossible to figure out what you're going to get banned for these days.
Well, now they're selling authentication badges on Instagram and Facebook, and you got to pay like $15 a month for that shit. Badge. I'm like, I'm genuine, you know. I'm not want to pay $15 a month for someone to put a badge on next to my face. I don't want to do that. That seems crazy to me.
No, I just,
you know,
I can't. You know, it kind of takes the fun out of social media when you're putting all that certification on and this and that. It's just like,
I know. Yeah.
So,
well, what did you think of the content tonight?
I like it. We're still live, by the way, on my end of things. So just so you
Yeah, I
know.
know. I'm drinking on your live. Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. It's
It
all
looks
good.
like soda.
So no, I thought it was very interesting. I like the whole conversations about staging are really important because it's one of those things that I think people don't really realize how important it is.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a small price to pay
Yeah.
for a big benefit, in
For
my
huge
opinion.
benefit, for many
Huge
thousands
benefit.
of dollars more. If you, and I should have mentioned this, if you just get one extra offer because you staged it, you could wind up with 50,000 extra dollars. It only
Because of
takes one
escalations.
competing buyer because now it's staged and you've got these fabulous photos out there. I mean, I should have made that point, but that's true. I mean, and that's really, it's not even as important when it's just a crazy ass market and you've got this really cute house. It's not really as important, but it probably could get you lots more money. But it's when the market starts to get like it is now, where you might only get 2 or 3 offers and you're not staged, or maybe you might get only one offer now because only 53% are going under contract within 7 days and you didn't stage, so you're not one of them. Now you're going to get one offer and you're going to get a below asking price offer because that's what happens. So if you are staged and the photos and the Matterport video and the videos turn out fantastic because you put down, I should have said this too, you put down this beautiful area rug over in a rug in the living room that just doesn't look that great. You're not hiding anything, you're disclosing it on the Form 17, but you're making the room, you're making an example for the buyer of how you can make this room look fantastic in the shape it's in now. And so that really is the kicker. People don't understand what staging can do. I mean, it can distract your eye from, and I meant to mention this, from the fact that it is a 1980s. It can make it feel like it's more updated just because it's clean and you've got these cute furnishings in there. So it can make a huge difference. One extra buyer is all it takes to get over asking price. Just saying.
Now I've got to ask. This is sort of a question that. So let's say if you're coming to a listing agent, do they disclose to you that, hey, we've got an escalation clause and this thing is escalating up to X amount? Do they tell you that before you're making an offer or not?
So I call the listing agents and I try to make nice, right?
Yeah.
So that's why, I have a good reputation in this business as being a very nice agent, polite, because that's how I treat people. And so if I initiate conversations fairly soon in the process, my buyers have seen the property, I have some questions, I relay those to the listing agent, and thank them however I can, and just try to encourage a good working relationship. Thank them when they send me the Form 17 or some other documents or answering my questions. That goes a long way towards forming a relationship. And then when it comes to me coming out and asking them, hey, what do you have for, so a lot of times this happens on offer review date in the morning, because if there's an offer review date, Dan, that nobody submits their offer until the morning of the offer review date.
Right.
You can take that to the bank, and oftentimes not until exactly when they're due. So I don't wait to the last minute. I try to do it an hour before. That's not much time in advance. And the reason we do that is because guess why? Because listing agents kiss and tell.
Yes,
They do. So,
yeah.
and if you're like me, as an agent, you're going to call that listing agent. Hey, I'm getting ready to submit my offer. How many do you have? What is that? What does it look like? Are people waiving the inspection? Are they waiving financing? I mean, I go for the gusto, and I'll start listing questions and trying to get answers one at a time. So first I'll ask how many offers they have. So they have 5. Are there any cash? Because I need to know if there's cash, because cash will beat anybody. Especially
Cash is king, right?
Cash is king. It will beat anybody, especially if they've waived everything and they're the highest escalator. So I always ask those questions, and then I'll say, So this is key. I think as a buyer's agent, I think this is key when you're in a competition with other buyer's agents. I think right before offers are due, you call them up and you ask, listen, my buyers are, in the 650 price range. They can't really do much more. How many offers do you have that are going to go above that? And that it sounds like maybe you're trying to shortcut things, but to be honest, I mean, you're also looking out for your buyer's emotional welfare. It is torture being in a competitive situation. And if they already have 3 offers that are over 650, then why do you even need to be in the mix? To be fair, you're not escalating anybody. You don't need to be there. So, if it's very clear, and you can still submit your client's offer so it gets considered and it's in there, but at least you're able to counsel your buyer, listen, we got no shot at this. None. So don't get your hopes up because it ain't happening. So,
So do you ever no, right, I'll be the smart ass. Let's say with the offer, which you put in something like, the client is an outstanding citizen, won the President's Physical Fitness Award, is just a terrific person, and would love to own the house.
Yeah, so there are certain situations where it's certainly worthwhile building up your client. I mean, one of the things you can do is obviously you could talk about their credit worthiness, and I always have, and this is a whole nother topic, but I always have the lender call the listing broker to let them know that, hey, they're either pre-underwritten or they've checked their their assets and their cash at hand to close. They've verified their credit score and their employment, and I'll have the lender call and tell the listing agent all these things. So I don't have to, right? So I can say those to the listing agent, but then they'll get a phone call from the mortgage broker to explain to them exactly how well qualified my buyers are. So I'll have them built up on that side. The whole idea behind, the letters, the love letters, that's a dicey slope. That's dicey. That can work in your favor or against you. And I'm not a huge fan. I think there are certain circumstances where a love letter could be very appropriate. I have had buyers fall in love with a property, not just because it was in a specific area, because nobody has any control over that really, but more because the way the sellers took care of the landscaping, some extra weird, different kind of unusual spaces maybe they created around the yard. Maybe they've got a sheet. I don't think you can say she shed anymore, but I don't know. Anyway, maybe they got a little shed that, maybe guests could stay in and stuff. But I have had success with some love letters. Most of the time, I don't recommend my clients send over a love letter. Occasionally, they'll try to write one. We'll talk about it. And a lot of times we just decide in the end not to send it. So it has to be something, again, that's sort of compelling, right? So there has to be some real emotion behind it, and not just, hey, we're a great couple, we got some cute kids, and we've got a dog, and we love your place, and we can't wait to go to the library down the street or the park over there in the backyard. It's got to be, it needs to be something a little bit more than, I think, that to be worthwhile taking the risk, because I always feel like it's risky for breaking fair housing violations.
I would seem like the seller's answer might be, that's terrific. You sound like a wonderful family. How much are you escalating to?
That's right. Yeah. And so, to me, I don't think it's most of the time, I don't think it's a worthwhile endeavor. I think it can hurt you more than it can help you. So not something I normally would recommend. It would, like I said, it will have to be a compelling situation, something really super relevant to that particular couple. Like the guy who was going to buy that house I was mentioning in the Linwood, Edmonds area. So he could have had a compelling argument. He actually owns 4 properties within like one house of that house. Actually, I think he might own the next door neighbor's house in like just the tightest little area there. And I have no idea why he's buying properties around where I believe that's where he lives. But he is. And so there must be a reason. And that could be something where a letter or me telling the listing agent, my client has to have this property. What do we need to do to get it? So there's also that conversation. So, if your client really, really wants that property, what can you do to get that? And, sometimes they will tell you that, hey, listen, the next best offer has waived everything. So the best offer so far has waived everything. No financing contingency. They have financing, but they've waived it. So yes, they're going to get a loan, but they've got $50,000 non-refundable earnest money. Oh my God. So that's happening too. And then I could have worked with the listing agent to try to get the best offer put together for my client if that's what he wanted to do. Yeah. And he was interested.
I would think that non-refundable earnest money angle, that would be very effective to get somebody's attention.
Yes, it works very nicely. Yes. I don't recommend my clients do it ever. Mm-hmm. But when I'm a listing agent, all day long, we'll take that shit. So the guy that I'm referring to that owned a few houses in that immediate area there, that was the house that was in Edmonds, Linwood area, and he was willing to go. We were willing to escalate to 650. So he would have been just shy of where that. Or I'm sorry, let's see, that one went for 78. He was willing to go to 750. Is where he was willing to go on that one. Oh, sorry, 650. No, 650 because it went for. Hold on, sorry. So it was listed for between 530 and 550. He ended up getting, I'm looking at the wrong notes here. Here we go. So that one got 3 offers. So we would have been offer number 4. And the first guy had an escalation to 675. So my client would have escalated him to 655 instead of the 605 that he ended up paying. So my client actually was willing to go to 650. And the reason he was willing to go to 650 is because he owned so many properties in the area. And it was like his next door neighbor. So he could really keep an eye on it while the work is going on, if he was going to flip it, or because he flips houses too.
Right.
So anyway, it was interesting. He didn't volunteer that information. It's just when I pulled his last name and the tax records, I wasn't looking like everywhere, just looking where he said he lived was in Linwood because I needed his actual home address for the purchase and sale. And all these houses came up in the same area. I was like, oh my God. So clearly he lives at one of them. I'm not sure which one. So that inspires the next text to him is, what's your address? Determine it from the tax record. So anyway, yeah. Interesting things in real estate, right?
That's right. Oh goodness.
It's not a boring business, Dan.
No, not at all. Oh goodness.
I think we got some good content there.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm gonna. If you think you're good.
Yes, I'm good.
I'll wrap things up. I'm gonna throw a steak on the barbecue and have a little dinner.
There you go. Sounds like a plan. Okay, well, this has been fun, Dan.
Thanks, Catherine. Thanks you.
Thanks for doing it. Okay.
Thank you.
See you later.
Alrighty, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.